The signing ceremony at the White House carried a tone that was both symbolic and practical, a reminder of how political gestures often intersect with the everyday realities of ordinary Americans. The moment was not only about the formality of a pen touching paper, but also about addressing a frustration that millions of families have endured for years, the difficulty of buying a home while protecting their privacy. The gathering began with a simple remark, almost conversational in tone. Someone close to the president urged, "Yes, say more about it than I can, please." That invitation opened the way for a fuller explanation of what was taking place and why it mattered. One of the officials stepped forward to clarify the purpose behind the president's decision. "Well, it's difficult for Americans to buy a home, particularly after the last 4 years, sir. But with the president's signature today, we're going to make it easy for people to buy a home without getting hassled." The statement immediately cut to the heart of the problem. The official did not stop there, but emphasized what had become a daily burden for so many families. For years, their private personal information has been bought and sold in the open market, resulting in them getting innumerable phone calls and text messages. But with your signature today, we're going to put an end to that so that when Americans try to realize the American dream of owning a home, they're able to do so without being harassed. These were not abstract promises. They spoke directly to the experience of Americans whose phone numbers and email addresses had been shuffled around by brokers and marketers. The idea that the process of pursuing a home, a goal considered central to the American dream, could instead lead to harassment had struck a nerve. With the stroke of a pen, the administration promised relief. The president responded warmly, "Good job." "Good. It's a great honor, Jim." The words were brief, but emphasized both gratitude and recognition for the effort behind this new step. What followed was an acknowledgement of the moment's importance. Okay, there it is. And that's going to help a lot of the homeowners of our great country. It was a direct appeal to the millions who had waited for stronger protections, an assurance that this signature was meant to carry real consequences for their lives. The ceremony continued in its natural rhythm, balancing formality with gestures of personal connection. The president handed the signed order to a trusted aide, remarking casually, "John, want to hold that?" The reply came promptly, "Sure," followed by the president's acknowledgement, "Thank you, John, very much. Thank you very much." Small words, yet filled with the sense of gratitude that surrounded the entire event. As the atmosphere settled, another aide, Will, prepared to move the day forward. The president encouraged him, "Okay, Will, you go ahead." But Will paused for something personal. He offered the president a gift from a constituent back in Tennessee. The president received it with visible appreciation. "Oh, I could use that at night as an American flag. That's very nice. I like that. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you very much. That's very nice." It was a brief but meaningful moment, a reminder that even in the middle of executive actions and policy discussions, symbols like the American flag still carried weight, evoking patriotism and shared national identity. For a short while, the weight of politics gave way to a sense of unity, a reminder of the ideals that often inspire the policies themselves. The ceremony, however, was not just about one order. As the day's agenda pressed on, an aide reminded the president of the larger task at hand. "Next, we have a number of executive orders for your attention, sir." The signing on housing protections was part of a wider effort, a broader suite of directives designed to address various aspects of national life. Taken together, the transcript revealed much more than the passing of paperwork. It provided insight into the administration's strategy to blend direct policy with human connection. The housing order addressed a technical but significant issue, the misuse of personal data in the home buying process. Yet it was framed in a way that tied it directly to the American dream, making it about more than rules and enforcement. It was about restoring dignity to ordinary people. The official's reference to the last 4 years underscored the strain that had defined the recent period. Housing markets had fluctuated, interest rates had risen, and affordability had slipped further out of reach for many families. On top of that, the harassment born from the careless trade of personal data made the process even more draining. Now, through this order, the administration promised a measure of protection. The president's responses reinforced that message by calling it an honor, and by insisting that a lot of the homeowners of our great country would benefit. He cast the decision as not just policy, but a patriotic responsibility. The exchange of the American flag heightened that theme, reminding those present that the issue touched on values at the core of national life. The most striking element of the exchange was its human tone. The president joked lightly about using the flag at night, but quickly folded that humour into a gesture of genuine appreciation. The room was not stiff with political formality. It was softened by small acts of gratitude and shared meaning. For viewers, these details mattered. They made the policy announcement less about bureaucracy and more about empathy. They showed leaders not only signing papers, but also acknowledging the daily frustrations of families who had long felt powerless in the face of endless calls and messages. The ceremony closed on a forward-looking note. With several more executive orders lined up, the president was reminded that this was only the beginning of a much larger effort. Yet the housing order was framed as a cornerstone achievement, a practical measure tied directly to the pursuit of the American dream. The underlying message was clear. The government was moving to protect privacy and dignity, to make the process of buying a home less burdensome and more achievable. It was an attempt to demonstrate that the promise of America, freedom, opportunity, ownership, was still alive and worth defending. In the president's own words, that's going to help a lot of the homeowners of our great country. That line, simple yet emphatic, captured the essence of the moment. It placed homeowners and families at the center of the story, reminding everyone listening that beyond the executive orders, beyond the politics, the real beneficiaries were the people who dreamed of calling a house their home. The signing ceremony then was not just a formal step. It was a statement of values reinforced by words, gestures, and symbols. It highlighted how privacy and protection are essential to dignity and how home ownership remains a pillar of what Americans consider the good life. The president's words, the official statements, and the gift of a flag all combined to frame the policy as both practical and patriotic, a small but significant step in ensuring that the American dream remains accessible without harassment.